Hey, what's up, Scallywags? What do you guys think? I mean, about time to give up the ghost here. I'm starting to do the Gallagher comb over, and I knew this long hair was my last hoorah when I started growing it out. My mother's father was bald, and my father's father was bald. I knew I was doomed right out the gate. Both my younger brothers went bald before I did. I always say the smoking and the drugs stunted my growth, so my balding happened later. But I don't think it's going to be too much longer, and I'm going to have to cut all this hair off because it's starting to look like a desperate attempt for an old man to look young. And there reaches a certain point when you just have to say to hell with it. I'm old. It's a part of life. Get over it. Plus, summer's starting to hit here soon. It's getting hot, and I could probably keep my body a lot cooler without all this damn hair on my head. You know, there was a time I could throw one of these bandanas on, and I mean less than a minute, and I was on my way. I remember my mom, whenever the rare times that I was home as a teenager, she would see me putting on a bandana, and she would always say, "Take your war paint off. Take that damn war paint off." She knew that when that bandana went on, I was going out roaming and running with the brothers, and we was up to no good. But now when I put a bandana, I still wear the same color we used to wear, but now when I put a bandana on my head, it's because I'm going to go for a ride. And I'm not going to have everybody on the highway laughing at my bald ass. Plus, it keeps the bugs from smashing fucking. By the way, that'll wake you up too. I remember one time I was going to go somewhere on the bike, and I wasn't going far, and I thought, the hell with the sunglasses, because I would have had to run back in the house and get them. Man, you're doing 60, 70 on a bike, and a big bug flying hits you in the eyeball. That'll wake your ass up real quick. But yeah, I'm going to go for a little bit of a ride. We got a big month coming up here. In a few weeks, our son Joshua and his fiance is coming in from South Dakota, the land of the great crazy horse, the Black Hills. That's where they're getting married. They got permission to get married in the Black Hills, and he knows how much Crazy Horse. That was my hero as a kid. The soccer player Pele. Really, it's the football player Pele, because that existed before American football, but Pele and the Dakota Warrior, Crazy Horse, were my heroes growing up as a young boy. Those were my two heroes. I still like watching old black and whites of Pele, almost full out sprint, just weaving that ball all the way down the field in between defenders. And my dad called one day and he says, "You're not going to believe it." He had to run up to a payphone to call the house. We had just got home from school. He wasn't even home from work yet. And he said, "You're not going to believe who's up at the school." I said, "Who?" He said, "Pele." I said, "Nuh-uh." He said, "Yeah, I'm serious." And I immediately dropped the phone, didn't even hang it up. I sprinted. Oh, I was a center halfback. You know, I was used to running. I used to be able to run like Forrest Gump. Now I got emphysema and I can't breathe, but that's another story. I sprinted my ass all the way up to that school, just full speed. And right as I got there wasn't a huge crowd or nothing. There's a lot of people where I was having to try to push my way up in there, and he was just getting on a bus. And I was yelling, Pele, Pele. And he turned around and we made eye contact and he waved at me. But I was within 15 feet of greatness. And then I walked home and I was just like in a daze. I was like, oh my God, I just saw Pele up at the school. You know, it was like, wow. I'm sorry. But when you're that close to greatness, man, you talk about a legendary person. Pele was most definitely legendary. I love him. A friend of mine has a YouTube channel. It's called Grind and Pivot. Louis Max. He interviews a lot of famous musicians, all different kinds of people. Louis Max is really a good guy. He had the old press-on iron patterns from way back in the day. The ones that you would always tell your mom, don't put it in the dryer, because she'd put them in the dryer and they'd start peeling. And he sent Amy one that said Foxy Lady. It was from like the disco era. And he sent me one that had a 69 Mach 1 on the front of it. They used to draw them cars, them old muscle cars, like cartoonish. And he said, what do you want on the back? And I said, you don't have to put nothing on the back. I said, I'm just grateful for that. And he said, no, I'll put something on the back. What do you want back there? And I said, put Pele and the number 10. And because that was all, if I could get that number 10 number, whenever I played almost 8 years of European football, but it's, in America, it's soccer. Played every position. I was ambidextrous with my feet, not my hands, but my feet. I can kick just as hard left or right footed. And for that reason, I always ended up either left wing. We would do a 4-3-3 and then the goalie. And I was always left wing or left halfback. And because I could kick that ball and center it for those strikers, left footed, and drop it in front of them so they can get a shot on goal, you know. And our soccer team, man, there's some funny stories about that. We were like the Bad News Bears. I mean, I've clotheslined guys. I've been red carded out of a bunch of games. I remember I beat up a guy in high school. He said soccer players have weak wrists. And I beat the hell out of him. I said, you just got your ass beat by a weak-wristed guy. Because that sport's a hell of a lot rougher than people think it is. I remember one time as a kid, I ducked a soccer ball. Most of the kids would jump up when we were younger and turn their back on the ball. And I did that a couple times. My dad warned me, and then I ducked one time. And he took me home, put me up against the wall, and started zinging soccer balls at me. And I'll tell you what, after that day, Mark be running down the field, somebody getting ready to kick, I'd take it right in the face. I didn't give a shit, man. I wasn't going to turn my back on that ball again, I'll tell you that. I'm not going to have Dad pissed off. But, yeah, I mean, it was pretty rough when I played. And we had a big rivalry between this one school and ours. And these were Catholic. This was a Catholic grade school I went to. Well, the other team's coach, the referee, was his son. And I got red carded out of a game. And I deserved to get red carded out. I was sliding, tackling from behind, and I kicked him right in his chin, trying to act like I was going for the ball. I wasn't going for the ball. I was going for his damn chin. And the ref, rightfully, I had gotten a few yellow cards. He said, you're out of the game. He red carded me out. Well, my dad didn't hear what the call was, and my Uncle Danny was the coach of the team. He taught us all our traps and all that, and thigh trap, chest traps, inside the foot. Don't kick with the top of your foot on the laces because you don't get as much control. All kinds of stuff, but My Uncle Danny was like 18, 19, and the ref was like 18. And the ref tells my father, and my father says, "What was the call, ref?" And the ref goes, "If you clean the shit out of your ears, maybe you could hear." Well, my father couldn't go out and put his hands on a young kid, so my Uncle Danny went out and beat the living shit out of that referee right in front of God and everybody. And I remember I was kicking the ref saying, "Don't you hurt my uncle." Well, my Uncle Danny's on top of him beating the fuck out of him. But the ref was crying too. I mean, he literally broke down crying. And next day at school, everybody's like, "Oh, I heard your uncle beat up the referee at the St. Elizabeth's game." I said, "Yeah, he whooped his ass." I mean, he whooped his ass good. But that poor ref, I'm kicking him. Tell him don't hurt my uncle while he's getting the living shit beat out of him. We had an incident with my sons. I coached 3 of the baseball teams. I helped coach. I was assistant coach that my son Josh was on. And all the teams he was on, and I'm glad they do this, they require a background check for you to work with the children, which they should do. Well, the last team he played for, that was the best coach we ever had, too. He was a good guy. He goes, "Your background report came back, Mr. Volkerding?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "There's some stuff on there." He goes, "But ain't none of it against children. And some of it might help us with some of these other team parents." And he started laughing. So he let me be assistant coach for 3 years for that team. But they made a big mistake at our home baseball field because they serve alcohol there, along with the soda. And I'm not against alcohol if somebody wants to drink. I personally don't drink because I'm an asshole when I drink. But this mother and father got an ass full of alcohol. They were yelling ignorant stuff to our kids. Well, the next thing you know, the father, this drunk father's, "I'll kick any of your asses," and I'm your Huckleberry motherfucker. Let's go. I got tired of it. I went down and he locked himself in the car. And his wife was trying to get him to come out of the car. Well, in the meantime, both teams got forfeit. So I should have kept my ass sitting down. But I got tired of hearing this son of a bitch, They should not serve alcohol at children's games. They shouldn't do it. The passion gets going, your kid's playing, then you got some drunk damn fool threatening everybody. And it got to a point where I couldn't take it no more in my brain. And I was like, "I'll go with you right now, motherfucker. Let's go." And everybody had pulled out, and Amy said, "Are we going to go?" And I'm like, "No, I'm staying here and making sure Coach gets out of here all right, And I just sat there by the car, and Coach got all the balls loaded up, and he's pulling out, and he pulls up next to us. He goes, "Mr. Mark." I say, "Hey, what's up, Coach? I'm sorry about that." He goes, "Don't worry about it. We all make mistakes." And he goes, "You hanging around making sure I get out of here all right?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And he goes, "That's what I thought you were doing." And then about 4 years after the kids were done with baseball and everything, me and Amy were up at the park walking the dogs, and we saw Coach Ray. And I was so happy. So I'm like, "How you doing, Coach Ray?" And, "Oh, I'm doing great." And we kind of caught up, and he goes, "All those times where you was sticking around making sure I was safe and this and that and the other?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, and he lifts up the front of his shirt, and he's got a pistol. He said, "I had that with me every game, every practice." He said, "I got a license conceal and carry, and believe me, if anybody would have tried to hurt one of these kids," I said, "Oh, I know, Coach. I know." But he was really a neat guy. We had one coach that would yell stuff at the boys like, "Come on, you're kicking like a girl, And I told him, I said, "You need to knock that shit off. You're pissing me off real bad. Let them be kids. Competitive's one thing, but you're embarrassing that young man." And Coach Ray was the opposite, man. The kids would make a mistake, and Coach say, "That's on me. That's on me." He built those children up. He did not break them down. Best damn coach we ever had. And his he was a good man, good coach. And we had one real rough year. It was our second year. And coach said, this is going to be hard on them. But in the long run, it's going to help big time. And what he did is he moved us all up a division. And the bases in between was longer. And our kids were in grade school, and they were playing against kids showing up in cars. And we only won one game that whole season. But when we dropped back down to the division we were in the next year, holy shit, we were dominating. Dominating. Our kids were used to that extra distance in between the bases. They were used to playing against kids they were way too young to be playing against. And I mean, that first year, when we played that year with those older kids, it was beating after beating after beating. And it was rough on those kids. And at the time, they kind of didn't understand it. But I'll tell you what, man, the next year, when they saw how much it improved their game and how they were dominating the kids their age, they understood. And a lot of times, a champion ain't defined by his wins. He's defined by what he does when he loses. Yeah, Coach Ray was a great guy. Really good guy. And then I had an incident, too, at Pitchers one year with the cameraman. He was being disrespectful as hell to the mothers, to the kids. And finally, I went up to him. I said, what is your fucking problem, man? And he goes, excuse me? I said, you're a fucking asshole. I said, we're here to get team pictures taken, man. Maybe if you are not happy with your job, you find something else to do. You're sitting here disrespecting these women. You're disrespecting this kid. You know, I said, you're an ass. And he kind of looked at me. I said, do we got a problem? And he says, no, we don't got a problem. And he changed his attitude. And I wasn't real loud and belligerent where all the kids could hear me, but that's bullshit, man. We're trying to do something fun like take team pictures, and you're being an incomparable asshole to the mothers, to the kids. And hopefully that helped him somehow, or maybe he thought about that a little bit. And, you know, there's this poem, I got a meme of it saved on my phone where it says he's just a little boy. And that's what people need to remember when these kids are playing these games. You know, I grew up playing soccer in Missouri, and the shit in Missouri now has become very expensive and very, very competitive. You have to try out for the young teams even. And it shouldn't be like that. Children's sports are set up for kids to have a good time, to learn how to work as a team. There's a hell of a lot of pressure put on those kids. And that it's just a boy sign I seen at one ballpark, it really says everything that needs to be said about it. I've seen people, even the kids' parents, yell things at them while they're on the field that I think, man, dude, why are you humiliating your child like that? How about we encourage them a little bit and not cut them down? You know, what kind of an athlete were you? You trying to live through your kids? To be a star or something? The odds of any of them growing up and being a professional player are so astronomical. Just love them for who they are. If they're not a great player, support them anyways. Just love them for who they are. And let them have fun. Just let them have fun. It don't have to be all that fucking serious. I'll try finding that saying, you know, he's just a little boy. And I'll tell you what, the girls, there was a couple times we had like 2 games in a day, and we'd have a little bit of a wait before the second game would start up at the ballpark. And one day we were watching some other kids playing. There were some young girls about my son's age. Woohoo! Let me tell you, the girls are much more competitive with each other than the boys are. Those girls showed up. They're all getting out. They're warming up, stretching, throwing pitches. I mean, like a professional team. And I watched a grade school girl upend and flip another grade school girl. The catcher upended and flipped the other girl over her shoulders onto her back at home plate. I looked at Amy. I said, "Oh my God." She goes, "Yeah." I said, "These little girls are more competitive than the boys." They are. There's something female. I don't know what it is. I got a daughter and 3 sons. But man, when I seen that little girl upend that other girl and flip her over the top and that girl landed flat on her back, it's like, holy shit. The girls, though, when they show up, they're like little professionals. Warming up, stretching. I mean, they're all over it. Our boys, they would show up, kind of be meandering and out there in center field, looking up at the sky, chewing on his glove and shit. But you gotta love them for what they are, they're children. And they just want to fit in the world and be loved like everybody else. But I need to get this bike going. But I don't know, I saw John P. He did the video yesterday, and he was on there, and it was really good seeing him. John, I don't know him well. I'm getting to know him. But he's always smiling and happy and laughing. And I just love that, because there was a time I used to be real negative about everything, always stuck in the past. And my friend Nate, my homie Nate Dogg, my friend from high school that lives with me and my wife, he's always about laughing and having fun. And I was looking at him one day thinking, this fucker is always smiling. He's always happy. And I thought, you know what? I want some of that. So I started trying to focus on the positive instead of the negative. That's where I heard that saying somewhere, we can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or we can rejoice because thorn bushes have roses. So I always try to focus on the positive, like with my health not being good. I could say, oh, well, I don't have much time left. Or I could say, look at all the extra time God gave me. So at first it was really hard. I mean, I almost had to meditate to be positive. And then it got easier and easier. And now something bad happens, I will usually think of the positive things in my life before the bad. And I also found if you surround yourself with positive people, that saying positivity breeds positivity, that's damn true. If you're around positive people all the time and they're positive, it makes you positive. When I learned, and I knew for a fact, that as human beings, we put out energy. We are energy, our soul. We put out energy off of us. And when that became very apparent to me was in prison. Because before I was a flag holder, before I had privy to certain information that was going on within the organization, I remember one time in particular, you could just feel it. Nobody said nothing to me. You could feel it. The energy, it was just, in prison when things get very quiet, it is a bad, bad thing. Very bad thing. But you could just feel it. Nobody had told you nothing, but you knew something bad was going to happen. You could feel it. The whole atmosphere would just change. And that's when it became very apparent to me that as human beings, our feelings, our emotions, we pump that shit out. And it does affect things around us. If you're around somebody that's negative all the time, it's going to bring your positivity down. So that's what I try to do. I always try to see the positive instead of the negative, like my life. That's why I was doing my first channel before they took it down. I was hoping I could take the negative of my life and maybe one young person would hear me and change the road they were on. And in doing so, I could take the negative of my life and turn it into a positive. There's a lot of things I could say on that subject. I mean, that's like Donald Trump. I know a lot of people don't like Donald Trump, and I'm not going to get into politics. But I'm going to use him as an example, and I'm going to use Floyd Mayweather as an example. A lot of people say Donald Trump is cocky and arrogant. And I will admit, there are times he says things and I kind of wince and I'm thinking, ooh, you better be real careful what you're saying. Especially when you're president. You got to be real careful what's coming out your damn mouth. Because, like me in prison, I had to be real careful negotiating with other organizations because you kick off a war, people die. But the President of the United States, the weight on his shoulder is a hell of a lot more than the weight I had on my shoulders in a prison gang in prison. I'm not even comparing the two. But people say he is very arrogant. People say Floyd Mayweather, middleweight champion, is very arrogant. I would argue that to be champion of the world boxing, you have to believe in your heart that no man can beat you. I know from personal experience, a lot of a fist fight is mental. A lot of it's mental. And if you're psyched out before a fight, and you just got it in your mind, this guy's going to beat the crap out of you, chances are you're probably going to get the crap beat out of you. Floyd has a lot of reasons. He's undefeated. He's got a lot of reasons to be cocky. But I think his cockiness is part of the fight. Part of the fight, going into a fight with another man. I've only been in street fights. I've probably been in, I was trying to think the other day how many, and I don't even know. Just guessing, I would say probably between 70, 120 fights. Just guessing. I don't know. But quite a few. And most of them happened spur of the moment, instantly on the spot. But the ones where you knew it was coming, those were the ones that there was a mental battle going on. And you don't want to get yourself psyched out. So I think a lot of the reason Floyd Mayweather is like that is because his attitude. He's got to believe in his heart that no man can beat him. So his mind is mentally in the place to win that fight. I don't see it as arrogance. I see it as part of the fight he's fighting, because I know that boxing match is not just physical. There's a lot of it that's mental. It's a chess game. And then with Donald Trump, everything he's going to do, oh, it's going to be the biggest, it's going to be the greatest, it's going to be the best. And some could argue you got a Freudian thing going on with big things. Or you could say maybe that's why he succeeds at almost everything he does, because he tells himself he's going to. I think a lot of what we do has a lot to do with the way we're mentally thinking. If you tell yourself you're going to fail, you're going to fail. If you tell yourself you're going to succeed, you've got a much better chance of succeeding. And I hope that's making sense. I know what I'm trying to say, but as anybody who's watched me for any length of time, you know, sometimes I just start rambling and shit just comes out. But the only thing I can tell you is it's all from the heart and it's all real. But that's all I'm going to say about all that. Because me and Rosie, we got to go for a ride. I need some wind in what's left of my damn hair. Little wind therapy. Yeah, I seen old John P. laughing on that video. I get real tickled. He's always laughing and smiling. And there's a guy I follow on YouTube that's he's done a lot of documentaries and stuff. And he put up a picture of a couple in the 1920s just clowning and laughing in their front yard. And it brought me back to a time. You know, we got all these phones now, video games, televisions. brought me back to a time when I was younger. You know, my grandparents didn't even have air conditioning. And I can remember a bunch of the older people coming over in the family, and they'd all be sitting there with just a deck of cards and some drinks, you know, sodas and chips and dip, and they would sit there all night and laugh and talk all night long with just a deck of cards, just enjoying each other's company and laughing. And I think we lose a lot of that with this technology. I can see good things with it, and I see very bad things with it. One of the very bad things all parents need to keep their eye on is their children online, because it makes things real easy for predators. And anybody that works against that kind of stuff, like exposing people like that, thank you. I am 100% behind you. There's no greater thing in this country that we should be more worried about. We spend all of our time arguing about things that really, in the whole scheme of things, don't matter. What should matter the most to every single man, woman in this country is our children. A child is the only thing on this earth that is innocent and pure. And we have got to stop scarring our children up, because every generation gets more and more desensitized and more, empathy and compassion is drying up in the world. They did a study at this college on empathy and compassion in a hospital setting. And they're like, oh, wow. There's not as much empathy and compassion as there used to be. So they expanded the study group out. And what they found is in society, it's drying up. And that's because we are scarring up and we are desensitizing our children. Our children are our most precious commodity, more precious than gold, more precious than silver, more precious than oil. And every American should care how these children are coming up, because those children, whether we like the way they think or not, they're the future of this country. I can remember my dad, turn that music down, and like old Johnny Cash, you know, they invited him to the White House, Vietnam War going on and everything, and they were trying to get him to do certain songs that would contribute to what the agenda they were trying to push. Old Johnny Cash was too smart for that. He wrote a song called What Is Truth just for that occasion. And I bet you they were gritting teeth and not too happy whenever he sang that song. I guess it was Johnny's way of saying, hey, fuck you. You ain't going to use me as a tool. But I'm going to get off here, I think. I hope it... Oh, shit. Oh, that didn't feel good. Damn back. I need a backiotomy. Ow. Well, oh, man. I didn't have my trickle charger plugged in. This damn bike's got so much compression. You don't get a whole... I got a bigger starter put in it. And the bigger battery with more amperage, more turning capacity. It's the biggest Evo engine they make. It's bored out. And I got that racing carburetor on there, but there's so much compression. You only get a few times to start it, and it ain't going to start. Because you run the battery down, and I'm too damn old to be kicking it over. With all that compression, if that thing kicks back on you, it's going to feel like a Missouri mule kicked you in the head. I've seen guys break their legs and stuff kicking bikes over. More stubborn than a Missouri mule. But yeah, I got some pretty cool news today that Harvey and this guy are working on a book for Harvey. I'll definitely be buying that book. I love Harvey, man. Harvey matters very, very much to me. If he ever called me and said, Mark, I need you, I would be on my way. I think what I understand that Harvey took a life, but the circumstances and everything, I think that, and I know that every inmate, when they get out, they tell the parole board and everybody they're a changed man and this and that and yada, yada, yada. But I think that the Missouri Parole Office is wasting resources and money keeping an eye on Harvey, because Harvey is no threat to anybody unless you're trying to kill him or somebody in his family. And then you deserve whatever threats you got coming. But Harvey is not a threat to society. And I think the state of Missouri could do better using those resources to keep an eye on somebody who is. Because it's not necessary to keep an eye on that man. That man's doing good. And his heart's in a good place. And I'll definitely be buying that book. Not enough good I can say about Harvey. At Harvey Talks Prison. But let me try to turn this over once, see if she's going to fire. Well, I ought to open the garage first. We got a camera right out there. And I got the lock on the garage, but I put an extra lock in over by the roller over here. Just because my Rosie's in here. That Yamaha VMAX I had. I used to call that VMAX right up in the damn dining room in the dining room in the house, and park it in the dining room. And my wife don't put up with that shit no more. I'm like, you let me bring that one in, you won't let me bring Rosie? And she said, ah. And I told her when it comes to decorating colors and decorating the house and all that, that's her domain. I don't get involved in that. I don't argue with her about it, so Rosie stays out. Speaking of the devil.
My ears were ringing.
Were they?
Yeah.
I'll make something else ring.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Girl, you all that, a bag of chips and a 40 ounce. You are my pretty little filly. I have half the notion to take you in my arms and walk you across the great state of Missouri.
All the way?
Girl, you thick as a bowl of oatmeal. I love her so much. She is the love of my life. That woman saved my life. I could live 2 lifetimes and not pay her back. Before I met her, old Mark was a lost soul, man. I was one of those Hank Williams going down that lost highway. Just totally, pretty much heartless. You know, I had found God in prison. I always say God softened my heart in prison, and then he sent Amy not long after to teach me how to love again, because I had forgotten how to love. But I could live 2 lifetimes, literally, and not have time to pay that woman back for everything she's done. You know, it's not every day a man can honestly say, I married my very best friend. What me and Amy has, anybody that knows us will tell you the same thing. It goes beyond physical and mental. It's a very spiritual thing. I've been telling her since we first got together, it's like I'm not trying to be sacrilegious. I don't, when it comes to God Almighty, I take that very seriously. I do not mock God. I don't play games with God. Because the Bible says God chastens those he loves, and let me tell you, that's true. And God made me. He knows me. He knows I'm boneheaded. So when God chastens me, he don't just give me a swat and say, hey, wake up. He hits me with the 4x4 post and drives me to my knees. So I don't play around with God. But I've been telling her for a long time, I felt like I have loved you longer than this. Like, I've known her longer than this. And the only thing I've ever found in the Bible that might even back that up is when Jesus said, before you were born, I called you each by name. But that don't really back it up. So I'm not, that's all I'm going to say about it, because I'm not going to even begin to try playing games contradicting anything the Bible says, or I'm not stupid and foolish enough to play games with God. If I have anything when it comes to God, I have fear of the Lord. I don't mess around with God. I do not disrespect him. I don't want none. And you know what they say, don't start none, won't be none. Well, I ain't starting none. How you doing, man? You want a bottle of water or soda or something, man? You want a bottle of water? I feel bad. You guys are, it's hot out. There you go. It's cold out. There you go. Yeah, the mailman. My daughter always barks at the mailman, and I'm like, you don't want to mess with the mailman. That's federal, man. You're going to be locked up a long time. You don't mess with the mailman. But no, I mean, they walk their asses off all over the place. I always feel bad for them. And Christmas time and stuff, it's a good idea to put something out there for your mailman, you know. And keep your sidewalk clean so they ain't got to go slipping and sliding and breaking their damn neck. All right, Rosie girl, I need you to be good for me today. Let's see how you're feeling today. You pretty bitch. She likes when I talk a little dirty to her. Don't you, Rosie? And see, this bike's got manual compression relief valves that you have to push in each time you go to start it. Anything over 750 cc's will typically have those, but most of them, this bike's custom. Most of them, the bike is got automatic. It'll automatically open those pressure relief valves and then close them. These manual ones, you push them in, and that'll give you one full cycle through the cylinders. It's a V-twin to where you don't have all that compression. It makes it easier on your starter. The first starter I had in this bike, I tore the jack shaft up because I kept forgetting to push that pressure relief valves, and this bike's got so much compression in it. Okay. I'm not gonna keep rolling on it. I'll stop and push them in again. I don't need no choke. It's not real cold out. Come on, Rosie. Who loves you, baby girl? You know I love you. Oh. She's like, hey, dumbass, turn the ignition on. Sorry, Rosie. She's like, yeah, now I'm going to be a bitch. I'm sorry. Sorry, Rosie. Who loves you? Go ahead and get the keys to move Amy's car. There's my road. I need to get her up there and get her inspected. I gotta renew my tags. I'll renew tags on her. I could have had that bike a long time ago. All the money I spent on dope. And even worse than that, all that money could have went to good things for my family. But I have to live with that shame. I can't blame it on nobody but me. Even the stuff I went through as a kid, I was pretty much out at the house at 15 and a half, locked up somewhere, ward of the state, running away, whatever. But from 15 and a half on, I was pretty much on my own. I was out of the environment, and I can't blame the way I chose to deal with my childhood pain on anybody other than me. I can't blame mommy or daddy for none of that. I'm the one who dealt with things negatively instead of positively, and I have to live with that. A very dear friend of mine that I love very much asked me one time, she's gone through a lot of trauma as a kid, and she said, Mark, how do you deal with it? And I said, I try not to live there. No matter how many psychiatrists I go to, no matter how many medications they put me on, there ain't no magic bullet for it. If God Almighty wanted, he could reach down and he could take it off me. I know that, and like I know my own name. But sometimes God lets us have our pain because our pain helps us to help somebody else. And it gives us more compassion for other people. But, you know, like they say, that gold ore's got to go through the fire to come out gold, you know. But there is no magic bullet for it. And it don't matter how many strengths I go to, how many pills they want to shove in me. I don't like taking the pills anyways. Got put on Ritalin at 3 years old, and I was on either a psych drug or a street drug until a little over 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago. So 58 years old, only 7 years of my life have I not had some chemical in me. And I want to feel life. I lived it numb for a very long time. And until they say you ain't got long, you're terminal, or the pain gets too bad, I'm going to live life raw so I can feel it. It's weird being my age, trying to learn how to deal with emotions and stuff. It's also kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm gonna move her car. Me and Rosie, I need some wind in my hair. I come back and I just feel like a whole new human being. That's my therapy. Nothing like wind therapy. You know what I did do though, that I usually do? I just kind of go around and check some nuts and bolts real quick. Them old Milwaukee vibrators, them Harleys and stuff, you better check your nuts and bolts. They don't call them Milwaukee vibrators for nothing. I need to get over to see Dave too, the guy that built that bike. I miss him. But much love to all of you. And you know what I always say, carpe diem. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. Don't let your meatloaf, and may all your ups and downs be in your bed. Much respect to all of you. Lots of love. Peace out.